Well, good day and welcome into an abbreviated version of Commissioner's Chat. Just want to come to you a couple of minutes and give you an outcome of the Legislative Assembly. I am Romanda Noble Watson, the Director of Communications and Public Relations with the South Carolina High School League. And I am pulling the Commissioner in to give me some updates, just give me some outcomes of the Legislative Assembly meeting that occurred down in Charleston. So welcome in, Commissioner.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to come and share what goes on with the league.
Alrighty, so we're going to dive right in, and that's so we won't keep everybody too long. The main purpose of me pulling you in real quickly is to get an outcome of the Legislative Assembly. Can you tell us how that meeting went overall?
Sure, the meeting went very well. Actually, it was part of our spring conference meeting.
Okay.
We brought in all the schools from all the classifications, and they came in and met as classifications, had several discussions about multiple things that was going to occur. Part of it being the Legislative Assembly, but some parts of it was the Rules and Regulations section. So I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute.
Okay.
But the Legislative Assembly meeting went extremely well.
Okay.
The member schools really met and talked about those bylaws and proposals that were going to be considered and really vetted them well, and then they came forward and voted on them.
So speaking of the bylaws and the proposals, I think there were 12 altogether, and 2 of them were approved. Let's talk a little bit about the 2 that was approved, because that's what's really going to be of note here.
Sure. The 2 that was approved, one was basically explaining how we would do combination of schools. Those sports that where a student is able to represent the school as an individual no longer qualifies as a sport that can have a combination of schools. We normally put combination of schools, we put 2 schools together to be able to create a team. But there are some sports we have where school can be a team of one, i.e. swim, track, cross country, golf. I mean, all those can be a team of one. No need to be a combination of schools for those. While we got other sports such as soccer, tennis, basketball, lacrosse, it takes a full team to have a team.
Gotcha.
Those are still eligible for combination of schools joining together. But those sports are where you can represent your school as an individual, no longer qualifies as a combination of school consideration. That was one of them. The second one we dealt with was basically making sure that we understand what information is available to the South Carolina High School League, especially the league office, to determine the student's eligibility. And there are rules there where some of these apply to HIPAA or FERPA. Because in order for us to be able to do our job and protect the safety of the kids, we have to be able to review those things. So we ask that a waiver be signed by the schools, the parents, and the student to allow the league office to be able to view them for eligibility purposes.
Okay, so the 2 rules, you all heard the 12 proposals, and 2 of them were accepted. And again, I know we talked about it the last Commissioner's Chat, but just give the viewers, an idea of when we say who's responsible for submitting those proposals. And we know that at the Legislative Assembly they were voted on, but just tell the viewers once again so they'll be totally aware of who's responsible for submitting those proposals.
All of our schools have the opportunity and the obligation to update the league's bylaws and constitution. So principals and superintendents are the ones that have the opportunity and responsibility to put information in or bring things for consideration that would better the league. So while they get to propose it, there is a representative from each region, which we will call our Legislative Assembly, the delegates. They're the one that actually votes on it, and they'll be voting on it in the direction of which the schools or the regions have dictated to them. Vote yes for this, vote no for this.
Okay. Well, that gives a better explanation of actually what goes on in the Legislative Assembly, who is in attendance, how the proposals are determined, and all those things. Well, like I said, it was just real quick. I wanted to, because we needed to know that, because we talked about the Legislative Assembly happening, so we wanted to give the viewers exactly what came out of the Legislative. And of course, we know that there's always something going on in the South Carolina High School League. So can you give us a couple of things that's on the horizon in the near, let's say 2-3 weeks down the line?
Sure, thank you for asking. Part of it, we've already dealt with the with the proposals that went before the Legislative Assembly and those two bylaws that passed.
Mm-hmm.
We're now in the process of putting that in our league handbook because it goes
Okay.
into effect next year,
Okay.
starting in July 1.
Gotcha.
All right, but there's also a rules and regulations section, and some discussion was held down at the spring conference that addressed those type of things. Those things are more directly impactful to the sport,
Okay.
more so than eligibility. Well, the executive committee is scheduled to meet on the 17th of April.
Okay.
So those decisions or those guidance that the classification presented to their representative who serves on the executive committee are going to get together and they're going to make some decisions on some of those items that are there. Couple case in point. One is what venues are we going to use for our state championships? Two in particular. There are three that we're looking at. It's wrestling.
Okay.
We're looking at basketball. We're looking at football. Where are they going to be held? When are they going to be held? The executive committee will make a decision on that.
Okay.
But currently, I'm out there along with my staff. We're trying to get different venues that has an interest.
Mm-hmm.
And if they make us aware that they have an interest, they'll put their best foot forward. We'll
Okay,
call it
right.
proposals, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
We'll share all those that are proposed to be able to be the host and what they're willing to do to be the host. I'll share all that with the executive committee. So they'll take all of those things into account when they make a decision on the venues that's going to be used. That's one of the big pieces that we have. We talked a little bit about NILs. How are we going to impact that? What does that have to do with amateur status, and how are we going to look at that? Well, they've got that information in front of them. They've got to figure out what are we going to do with that? How are we going to deal with that? Where does NIL play in our amateur status?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make some decisions on that. We can put that in our handbook.
Okay.
Another area we looked at is violations that occur by the school that are orchestrated, for lack of a better term, by someone other than the student athletes.
Oh wow, that's huge.
Who
These
do we
days.
look at to penalize for that?
Oh, okay.
You know, in most cases, the school suffers and the student athlete suffers,
Mhm.
and a lot of times they're just following the direction of the adults in the case.
Right.
So with this, there's an opportunity to look at if we can identify who really created the violation, move the sanctions to that,
Okay.
and try to hold the student athlete intact as much as possible and their opportunities intact as much as possible, because in most cases they're only following the direction of those that are supervising them or coaching them or instructing them. So those are some of the big things that we have. There are others, but those are just a few that we'll discuss.
Wow, that's a lot, and so you have a few weeks to get ready for that, April 17th, just a little under a month, but I'm sure, and you can watch the executive committee meeting live on the NFHS network. Just search SCHSL Executive Committee, and that is free and open to the public. Information will go out as time get closer. Well, thank you so much for taking this quick 5-10 minutes to come in and chat with me and laugh a little bit, but I appreciate you giving us that insight.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you all for viewing, and we will catch you next time on Commissioners Chat.